everybody! So in this video I am going to just do a quick tutorial on how to find articles in the library database. So go over some of the library databases that we have. I'm going to start with EBSCOhost. It's my favorite. And remember that EBSCOhost is a host for many different databases. So Academic Search Complete is a database by itself. Masterfile Premier is a database by itself. And there's tons of them. If you click all of them, it'll yell at you, but I'm going to do that anyway because I'm a rebel. I'm going to hit select all. It says selecting all databases for search may result in a slow response time, but it's 9:20 at night. So I'm going to hope that not all of DTCC is on EBSCOhost right now. The reason I'm choosing lots of these particular databases is because I know that I'm trying to find something on a very specific topic, and I want to leave my options open. So today I am going to be looking for an article to support me in my agreement that it is important to recruit and retain educators of color. So I've read the article, Recruiting and Retaining Educators of Color, and I think that the claims put forward in it are good. I think that the claim that it's important and we need to recruit and retain educators of color is a good one. So I'm going to agree with that. So I'm looking for articles that are going to agree with me. So it is possible I could go through and just pick out the Education Research Complete and ERIC, but I'm actually going to leave my net wide open and see what I can see just using all of them. So I'm being a rebel. My topic is pretty narrowed, so I'm hoping that this just allows me to get lots of good hits to pick from. So I'm going to type that in. And if I'm looking through here, heartbreak.com, what if I think that this sounds amazing? I can't get it because we don't own it at Deltec. We don't subscribe to this, so we can read the abstract and the description of it, but see how I can't click to see the article itself? That's not going to fly. You can't use abstracts as sources. So I'm going to go back, and I am going to save myself the heartbreak, and I'm going to choose full text only, and I'm also going to change the publication date so that it's within, let's say, the last 5 years. I can choose the scholarly peer-reviewed journals if I'm just looking for academic journals, but I'm going to start off and see what I get without doing that. So one of the first things I get is this article. So I'm going to pick it and I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to do that by reading over the abstract. The article offers information related to a collaborative teaching fellows program designed to recruit, train, and retain educators of color. Topics discussed include the Urban Teaching Fellows Program at William Penn Charter School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hey, local interest. Interviews and focus groups with teachers, mentors, and school administrators who experience the pilot program, and use of individual differences among students' characteristics that might affect the students' learning. Interesting. This could work. It definitely talks about recruiting and retaining educators of color, which is along the same lines as what I'm looking into. So this is the kind of thing that I might save and read the article itself and see if there's anything in there. Because it does look like it explains a fellows program, so I don't know right now without reading the article if it's actually going to support what I have to say. Because it looks like maybe it's a description of the experience of educators of color who are participating in a fellows program, but maybe it doesn't give any specific claims about why that's important, which is what I'm talking about. So this is an article that I'm going to say, okay, that's interesting. Maybe I'll look over that. Maybe I'll email it to myself. Or here I would change email. I would type my email address in. Maybe I want to save it or add it to a folder. Remember that if you add things to a folder, they go away when you log out. So I'm probably just going to, maybe I'll just add it to the folder for now as a reminder that it's one that I'm interested in looking at. When I go back, here's the second hit. So let's read about this. During the last few decades, U.S. classrooms have experienced dramatic demographic changes. Okay, fair. All right, so I'm looking at this. The results of a larger self-study in which 4 teachers participated in a book club designed to discuss pedagogical possibilities. Okay, nope. So this is the kind of thing that you want to think about when you're reading the abstract. Does this talk about educators of color? Sure. But really, if we're paying attention to topics and we're paying attention to titles, which we should be doing anyway, that's a skill that we do when we're reading. We figure out the topics, we figure out what's going on in an article by looking at the topic and a few of the keywords and things like the abstract. If we look at this, teacher educators of color, yeah, that matches what we're looking for, but reading multicultural texts has nothing to do with what we ultimately want to discuss. We're talking about recruiting and retaining, not what's going on in multicultural texts with teachers and educators of color. So this is not an article, even though it's the second hit and it includes some of our keywords. This is not an article that's going to help us prove our point. It is really important that you guys go through this process and eliminate articles that don't really relate to what you are trying to say. A lot of times this happens to students where they come up with a keyword. Maybe it's one that's too broad and they type it in and they get a couple hits and they just pick the first couple hits they see because they're like, well, it talks about my topic. Part of being a good critical thinker is determining the R in the crap evaluation. Is it relevant? Is this about educators of color? Yup. Is it relevant to my claim that it's important to recruit and retain educators of color? Nope. So it's not going to be that helpful to me. I'm going to go back to my result list, and I'm going to keep going. That could be very interesting. Nope. Maybe. These, the ones that look like this, are probably, and they have like the titles that look more like this, Star Tribune, the Columbian. These are going to be more newspaper articles, so I don't know how helpful they're going to be. So I might want to go back and choose scholarly journals, especially if my teacher's asking for scholarly journals. That might be helpful. Don't want that. That looks interesting. This definitely supports some of the things that are said in the article, but I'm going to have to really think about whether or not I'm focusing my article on educators who are in special education. This is from the Journal of Special Education. It has a very particular focus. So I really have to think about whether or not this is relevant when the article I'm discussing is talking about education at large. And I'm thinking, even though this sounds like it agrees with what I have to say, it might be too specific to use in my argument, in my response. So this is the process that I'm going through. This looks way too intense. And now I've gone through and I found a couple articles. I had more when I wasn't just focusing only on scholarly journals, so I might open that back up. Yeah, I've got more hits, some of them to probably be to varying degrees of relevance. Maybe. But that looks pretty fancy. If you're like inquiry, navigate, dissidence, internalized, those are a lot of $1 million vocab words in the title. You can probably expect this to be a higher level, of a higher academic tone in this particular article. Yeah, we got double consciousness, existing racial hierarchies. So if you're ever reading an abstract and you're like, I'm finding this really overwhelming, that might be an idea that you don't want to dive into this particular article. But if you want to take it on, go for it. Maybe, yeah. So you can see what I'm doing. Those I might put into a folder. I might add that. This one seems interesting. So maybe I'm going to add it to my folder. And then I might head back out here. And maybe I'll go look at my folder and I'll decide, do I want this one or not? Do I want it? And whatever article I want, I'm probably, let's say I decide to choose this one, doesn't matter. Either of them could work. Many of these articles would work. There were some that I didn't put in this folder that I think would be fantastic. A lot of the articles that I found in this search so far would be good. But let's say I've decided for the point that I'm trying to make about why it is important, I'm going to choose this one. So I'm going to open it. I'll email it to myself, my DTCC, Kshaw 10. I'll email it to myself. If I want, I can change this to APA, but we all know that the APA formatting is not terribly trustworthy all the time from EBSCOhost. And I'll send it to myself, and that's my article. I will get a link to it so that I can find it again. You could also bookmark it. You could print it out. But this is the process of going through. I probably make sure that I want to look at it in the PDF because that's going to give me the page numbers for my citation. Yeah. So this one looks good. So you can see there's a little cartoon. That's not very funny. As we're going through these articles, you can see that there are certainly many articles to find on EBSCOhost. And if I'm not satisfied with EBSCOhost, I can always click back, maybe, and try it out on something like SIRS. Let's try it out. So you can see that I'm getting a lot. Hits are a little more all over the place. I don't know, does this have some of our keywords in it? Sure, but is this an article that's appropriate? Nope. Let's try and choose. Let's see what it says for government sources. Yeah, so you can see that SIRS is maybe not getting as many hits as I would necessarily like. SIRS is almost a little bit better for broader topics. I'm going to try out Nexus Uni. Yep, we found that one elsewhere. So you might have some luck in Nexus Uni. Click on it. Yeah, so there's a couple different places that you can look for this information. Again, now that I'm looking at it, I'm wondering if this report would be that helpful. It includes a path to equitable access to higher education for early childhood educators of color, which is good. So it is a plan, I think, for recruiting educators of color. So maybe there might be something in here to support my claim. But I would have to read it and really see if it was relevant in supporting my point of view.